will be eliminated from funding. And in this state, right here in our region, these are the only projects in the TIP right now. The projects, we have the major projects on the Spalding Turnpike, which are funded by the toll revenues, and then we have CMAQ, TE, and highway safety projects. That's all that's in our TIP. So if these programs are blended or eliminated and there's no mandated set-aside formula for them, such as for the CMAQ or the TE or the highway safety, safe routes to school, and because of our population, we get the minimum amount or just above. So DOT has done a great job and has recognized that these projects are extremely competitive and the very best rise to the top, and our region has done an amazing job of putting the best projects together and getting them through and implementing them and having success and then going out and doing more. And that's what's built our transit systems, both of our transit systems and the Downeaster Rail. So I think people should recognize that the reason we are the way we are is 20 years, at least 20 years of work here, you know, using these. So if Steve and Brad want to comment, this is major change. It's not just the GASSET, it's at the federal level also, and that's why we've tried to have two different letters with two sets of comments. So.
The CMAQ program, from our perspective, is absolutely critical. It's how we currently replace most of our fleet. There really are very few other options at this point anymore. It's also how we've expanded our service in the area, starting first with the trolley system at Portsmouth, which has been just a fantastic success. We've replicated that to a large extent in Dover with the fast trans service. Wanted to place in 2000, started going to place phasing in 2008. We hope to do something very similar in Rochester, quite honestly, at some point as well. Coast was developed as a system that connected communities. We never really developed internal services within those communities to help facilitate movement. So that's really what these CMAQ projects have been about, and it's been fantastic. Additionally, we have the CMAQ project related to the Little Bay Bridge project to expand our Route 2 and trolley services during the peak periods to half an hour frequency. That is huge. That will be some of the best frequency, and that also includes Wildcat Transit Route 4. That would be some of the best frequency public transit service in the state of New Hampshire. And quite honestly, at that point, the seacoast of New Hampshire has the single best level of service of transit between Wildcat and Coast anywhere in the state. And I think we can be really proud of that. And we, between our two systems, I think we're carrying somewhere over probably 1.6 million passengers a year at this point. There's nobody else that comes even close to that in the state. So this is monumental for us and our continued ability to grow and meet the demands of the region.
I would just add to what Brad says. The university in Durham have benefited from the CMAQ and TE transportation enhancements programs dramatically. There's been some effort to portray these programs as kind of peripheral, or they build tangential transportation, or it's not part of the infrastructure. And I just want to set the record clear on that. This region has used both of those programs to build what many of us now take as fundamental infrastructure. You look at the park and rides on the 95 corridor, the Pease park and ride, the Dover park and rides, and the public and private intercity bus services that so successfully serve those park and rides that are full. None of those facilities would have been built without the CMAQ program. Starting way back with the Pease park and ride, which is probably 15 years old at this point, give or take a few years. That had CMAQ funding. The rail stations in the region, CMAQ and TE funding, along with local community support. I think that's something, as a region, we need to understand. These projects have demonstrated grassroots support, financial support, many times from the local communities that put up the 20% match, sometimes more, to do the projects. New Hampshire has consistently been highlighted as one of the most successful states in our CMAQ and TE programs in developing grassroots programs that are tested, vetted, and chosen in a competitively rated scoring system by state communities. And we have built great projects in this region. From the UNH perspective, similar to Coast, we have used CMAQ funding simply for fleet replacement, for capital. The students at UNH pay 100% of the operating costs of our transit system. So it's that capital money, that CMAQ money, that has allowed us to carry 1.2 million passengers a year. So I want to just join with RAD and the Planning Commission in making sure that people understand that these programs are critically important. And as Cynthia said, logic, you might say, well, if just simpler, we didn't have all these separate programs and there was just transportation money. But we have seen over the past many decades that what happens is the giant projects, the mega projects, become sponges that really absorb most of the money in the transportation program. I'm not saying that I-93 widening isn't essential. But the fact is, without categories that set aside some of this money, the vast amount of money will go to these big projects, and that will leave our small communities, kind of the last mile of transportation, will leave those needs unmet. And the needs do not go away. If you were to say, well, that's all we can afford, those transportation needs in local communities will then fall to local communities to pay for with local dollars. So we very much think that the TE, CMAQ, and these other programs have been very successful, very efficient in this state. They've been locally managed projects with low overhead. I can state from the university's perspective, when we do a CMAQ and TE project, we charge $0 for administration and management. $0. All that money is going right to the project. So these have been great projects for our region. I think these programs are critically important, and we need to preserve the set-asides on these programs. We have a model that's worked, and we should keep it going.
From DOT, we definitely value the projects. We know that there's a lot of value and benefit for these, and we do appreciate all the hard work that goes into setting these up and putting them together and implementing them once you do get the CMAQ money and the TE money. But we balance this with the statewide strategic priorities. That's we got to preserve our highways so you can run your buses on the roads. We got to fix the red list bridges to keep your buses on the road and different things. And then also we got to look at the I-93 widening. We still need to finish that project. But I just want to make sure that you understand that we do appreciate it. We understand it. This decision to take money out is not an easy decision to the department. It wasn't here's easy money to take. Everything was kind of balanced. Looking at statewide needs as well as the TE and CMAQ. So it wasn't an easy decision. We do appreciate everything that's happening, but they felt that this is the best way to balance it with the reduced funding we're getting from federal highway and trying to bring our whole budget down to $100 million, going from 150 down to 100. It's just devastating to, really limits it, doesn't even meet our needs for the maintenance and preservation, as well as getting the red list bridges out there. We just heard that, Strafford has 19% of the red list bridges, and we heard last time, how critical it is to get those fixed. It's just, there's only limited money to go around, and I guess we just got to try to balance the best we can and just appreciate it. But we definitely respect everything you guys are doing and understand the value and all the hard work you put into it. Just hoping times will change.
I want to share with you my recent experiences. As a private citizen, I did write my congressman, got a reply. I did not like that reply. I sent a very short, very sharp reply to that reply, And I got an email asking me to call their office, and I've been talking to his staffers. So my message is, as individuals and private citizens, you need to get out there if you believe in this stuff and go to your congressman. That's all.
Tom?
Thank you, Lou. On behalf of the DES, I have sort of two comments. One has to do with the process that we're engaged in right now, but the other is the sort of the content itself. DES is very mindful of the good work that the CMAQ and other, as it's called here, special funding programs do provide to the state. And we also recognize in particular that CMAQ is a way to help us achieve our air quality conformity goals. But having said that, I do have some concerns about the way this letter expresses essentially what would be the solution to the problem. The DES does support the DOT in making those tough decisions that they had to in terms of who's getting the money and which programs are going to be impacted. But the letter, I'm looking at the letter that I got actually this morning when I got here, with regard to the GASSET hearings. It concludes, after describing all the benefits of these special programs, that the NPO recommends New Hampshire create a designated state revenue stream to provide transportation dollars to fill the gap. It's on page 5. I know it's important to get your message out to all the audiences, and this is apparently the message. Unfortunately, I recognize that filling this, creating a revenue stream to fill this gap is a legislative problem, not a problem that's going to be solved within the GASSET process. So I just wanted to point that out, that I assume that the letter that's going to the congressman at the federal level, congressmen and senators at the federal level, will be very similar to this. But
No, it's on a different issue.
well, okay. While DES, is supporting the DOT and the tough decisions that it made, and I would have a hard time endorsing this letter as it's written right now. And if I can have a couple minutes to talk about process, I am a little concerned that we have as action items approving this letter, which I was not able to get until this morning when I got here, and I believe an action item associated with the letter to the federal delegation that we haven't yet seen. Taking with that the fact that the letter on GASSET comes before the hearing here in Rochester next week. Now I know these themes are consistent throughout the stakeholders around the table, but I'm a bit concerned about the process whereby we're requested to endorse a letter that I haven't really had enough time to digest, and it may be somewhat premature in that the GASSET hearing process is still going on.
Thank you, Tom. Okay, any other further comments?
I'd just like to say something. So the format of the process issue, the format this time, normally on our agendas, we put action items first, and we wanted to have a draft letter out for your consideration for the GASSET, and also to look at the reauthorization bill. But we also realized that in process that we haven't fully discussed this, and that the reauthorization bill is still changing day to day, so we wanted to start the process. So in terms of how the agenda is structured, the action items, which these eventually will be, are normally put first, and then the discussion. So it's just, we're very reflective of being transparent and open in our process, and that's why we deferred any action on these until after discussion. And there is time to review these and get, what we wanted was to put out a letter and get a sense of the policy committee, this letter is